I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome you all to the April voting meeting of the Exeter Township School District Board of Directors. I would announce that we did have an executive session prior to the meeting discussing student services. I also regretfully need to announce the loss of a staff member and a student. Mr. Charles Luft, who had worked with us since June of 1999, died Saturday unexpectedly. He was in surgery and the surgery went bad. He leaves a wife, 5 children, and 8 grandchildren. He will be missed, and we extend our condolences to the family. December 5. I assume you have all heard of the death of our student Jamie Kodos. The death of a young person resonates throughout the family. I'm sorry.
Jamie was 18 years old and a senior at Exeter High School, and very much loved throughout the high school. She was a very friendly girl from what I understand. I never got to know her personally, but from what the students have been saying over the past couple of days, she was a friend to everybody, always a smile on her face. Just a really nice all-around girl. Only here for a couple of years, family moved from out of state. But unfortunately was very tragically killed Friday night in a car accident, and the high school has been grieving ever since. So we offer our most sincere condolences to her family for having to deal with the death of a young person, a daughter, a sister. She has a sister in 10th grade and a brother in, I believe, 5th grade at Rifton. And we all feel her loss, but I can't even begin to imagine what her family must be going through to lose a child so tragically like that. So it's been a tough week for us all the way around, and we get through it because we're a strong family, and there's a lot of great people around to support the kids, to support the teachers. We support each other, and we come together in times like this. We've lost a lot of people who have worked here. We've lost students over the year way too early, and each time it's hard for us to deal with, and especially obviously for their families. So I'd like you to observe a moment of silence now in memory of Charles Lutz and of Jamie Lynn Kodos.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Bob, can I extend my thanks to the administration, to the teachers, and also to the students for how they have honored the memory of their fallen classmates and for what you guys have done to help them through. And I'd also even like to extend a thank you to the students of the Daniel Boone District who also wore pink in honor of Jamie's passing, and I thought that was a great gesture on behalf of that school district. But thank you for your work.
In addition to that, too, the Hamid at Dairy Queen, there is going to be a fundraiser tomorrow evening. I don't know the exact, 5 to 8.
5,
It's in that area as well with
starts at 5.
proceeds going to the family to help with the expenses. So if you have the ability to get out and support, we appreciate it.
Just a short comment. I would just like to mention, and to piggyback on what Mr. Japina said, is the idea that the students made the effort to start fundraising for the family and also to create a scholarship in Jamie's name. And my comments are just how appropriate I think those actions are, and about the response of the community, and it's the Exeter education community. And then to get a little political with it, these are the kinds of things that we don't measure with standards and with tests. And that's also what our education system and the Exeter Township School District as a social institution instills in our young people. And I think there is value to that, and I think we make a mistake when we forget to value those kinds of lessons.
Thank you all. Are there any comments or questions from the audience?
I just looked up, the fundraiser's from 5:30 to 8:30 at Dairy
Thank you,
Queen.
Patty.
Thanks, Doug.
Hearing no questions, we'll proceed on. Mrs. Clack?
I believe all of you have received my report, and I'd just like to highlight a couple of things on it. The Healthy Hungry Kids Act of 2010 continues to regulate all of our meal services. In addition to things that they changed other years, that this year they had us required to have 2 fruits at each breakfast. The competitive food and smart snack regulation became effective July 1st. And I do have 2 baskets of our smart snacks back on the table if you'd like to pass them around. They need to meet 230 calories this year. Next year it's 200. Everything needs to be whole grain rich or a vegetable product. I do have some vegetable chips back there too. The only pretzel we've found that will meet these 2 regulations is called Hartzels from Red Gold. And everything else is going to have whole wheat or whole grain at the beginning of their ingredient statement. We cannot use it. So there have been some changes for what we offer the students. Also, the sodium restrictions were regulated. I think they're going to stay at what they are this year. There was a proposal to really reduce them for the next year. However, I think they're going to stay where they're at. Also, I'm going to request permission to eliminate the whole grain pasta until the quality of the product improves. And again, everything needs to be whole grain rich or whole grain. We do get commodity foods that are used to offset the rising costs. Fresh fruits and fresh vegetables are really, and romaine and spinach are added, and it's a considerable cost to our meals. This year I used the Department of Defense to purchase some of our fruits and vegetables for our program. The free and reduced benefits continue to rise. Each year it seems to go up 1 or 2%. This year it's at 27% of our student body. The state is providing an online application process through the site called Primero Edge. So we will be setting that up on our website, hopefully by July 15th, so that all applications can come through that site and download into our point of sale system. We still use Meals Plus as our point of sale, and it provides confidentiality to all students and their families regarding their status. We can post dietary notes or allergies on there, and the transaction and account balances can be viewed by the parents on that site as to what the balance is and also what their students have purchased. We've seen the average daily deposit double from last year with about $1,000. This year the average daily deposit is $2,000. The meal participation for February is listed at the bottom of your report. We do see a lot of the free and reduced students coming to our breakfast line. We get reimbursements from the federal government and also the state. The state did not increase their contributions for reimbursable rates, and the amount that the federal raised theirs was really inadequate to keep up with the rising costs. The NutriKids program is a nutritional analysis program that I use when I make up my menus to make sure we meet all the calories, the fats, and that information is posted on the Exeter website along with the menu. Those menus and nutritional analysis will be transferred to the state sponsored Career Edge site. We have special meals to build participation. We do all the holiday meals, we do Halloween, we do Valentine's Day. Some of the things that the kids really like are at Repton, the My Way Cafe. This is a new concept and it works well with the 5th and 6th graders. We usually use a Monday to feature a pasta bar or a taco bar, burrito bar, Chinese New Year. And then we give them choices of what they want in their meals, or build a burger, what kind of toppings do you want on. So it gives some excitement, some change. We usually do that on a Monday. And in every school, the brunch for lunch is the most favorite meal of all. Some of we have the inspections listed there. I do have 13 staff members who are not ServSafe certified, and then one working on hers now. Some of my concerns are the increasing cost of fruits and vegetables. We try to get specials from some of our produce suppliers and offer seasonal fruits and vegetables. So we shop around, just like you do when you go to the grocery store. We shop around for the best prices and the best variety. We had increasing maintenance costs, especially the freezer in the high school. There were repairs that were almost $3,000 or $2,400. And it was an ongoing issue that they put one part in, that part was bad, they would have to do something else. So that was a major expense. There's also new regulations for indirect costs. Some of my concerns are entering that menu cycle on the state site because there's a lot of work involved in that. The software changes provided by the state to reduce the free and reduced applications. And the techniques are really helpful in setting up some of the databases that we need to use for that. So that will be starting hopefully July 15th. There is regulation about professional education for food service staff. This will be geared towards how many hours they work and what position they work in the food service department. And then there'll be certain hours of professional training that they will need to accomplish. The new wellness policy regulations are still being finalized. It will concentrate on nutrition education, activity, meal duration, and public notice. And it will regulate all the foods that we serve in our schools. Our state review is scheduled for June 16th. Previously it was a 4-year cycle, now it has changed to a 3-year cycle. So next year is the year we will be reviewed. Also, increasing revenues with breakfast sales is a wish that I have. This classroom program I think would help the education of the students and also would help our revenue. Studies suggest that eating breakfast may improve cognitive function, improve standardized test scores, especially in the math scores, and school attendance. Nurses have less visits because of their stomach aches or headaches, and overall eating breakfast will improve their health, behavior, and learning, and also helps to prevent obesity. The next thing I have is the meal prices. We use the pay tool equity that we need to use through the state guidelines to come up with these prices. Most of the prices went up 10 cents. I do have a comparison for the Brooks County schools for 2014-15, so you can see what that comparison is. The first column on my page shows what we presently charge, and then the proposed is on the second column. And some schools have already determined what they're going to be charging for the 15-16 school year, and I also have a page on that. The last page is about the statement of revenue and expenses. Our operating revenues and our operating expenses are listed there. There was a transfer to the general fund for utilities and other costs of $80,423. Also, employee benefits for this year include retirement special pay of $26,991 because we have 4 staff members who are retiring. The employer contribution rate for the teachers has also increased from 21.4 to 25.844 for the next year, so that really means an increase of $14,453. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions? I'm looking at your spreadsheet book, and I guess I'm wondering that we have a number of items that we had an original budget, we have an adjusted budget, and then we have projected budget we're looking at from this year to next year. And we have, if we're just looking under operating revenues, you had a number of shortfalls, but next year you're projecting the numbers will be above where we had the original budget this year, but we weren't even close to that. For example, we're looking at our lunch sales. We had a projection of 629,168. We have an actual as of June 30, 2014 was 558. This year we're expecting to be 574, but for some reason you're now predicting that's going to be at 634,970, and we've never been able to progress ourselves up to something even close to 600. So I'm wondering why is the assumption on that number, just to start
Well,
off.
because of raising the prices of the meals, that's contributing to it.
That does reflect the increase in price.
Do you find that a number of students pick up the vegetable and throw it in the trash? No, I'm honest.
Definitely.
And do they have the option to say, I'm not going to eat it, why don't you just keep it and we can see?
Definitely. And I've been over at the high school where they take a juice and a milk and the trash can's right there, they take their sandwich and throw everything away. So I asked if they couldn't do a sharing table, if somebody else wanted that juice, they could have it. And especially in the elementary schools. I mean, some of the things are not well accepted in this region. For example, I have to offer some kind of legume or bean every week. So kids know baked beans. There's been a lot of baked beans on my menu. But when I put hummus on, they're not accepting that. And just rice and beans, they don't accept that. So it's really hard to get that in, and also the orange and red. Because I tried sweet potatoes, where they'll take them, but they don't eat them. Those carrots, so you see a lot of carrots and a lot of sauces and salsa and things like that on my menu just to make the requirements. But yes, there is a lot of waste. And they know they have to take something, but that doesn't mean they're going to eat it.
It's just a shame that you see good
It
food
is.
that goes from 1 second perfectly good, the next one in a trash can, that it can't be like a pass-through, something like, thank you, and just push.
No.
And then, because, I mean, we're wasting money all the way around.
Right.
Especially we're saying we have 27% of our free and reduced, and I'm sure that 27% of our food is going to save lives. That policy.
Actually, the National School Nutrition Association is asking for that exception, that we would continue to offer those things, but not require them to take them. That would be one thing that we're asking them to do. And also to keep the sodium level down where it is, and to make 51% whole grain, which it was like before this Healthy Hungry Free Kids Act, it was 51% that had to be whole grain. So there are some things we're asking for at a national level. Whether or not they'll be approved, we have no idea.
Lori,
Thank you.
just to piggyback, just to make sure I'm understanding it, the actual is just the end of our last year's budget, correct?
Right.
Yeah, that was the end. And then the original budget is the one you proposed, 63015, and the adjusted budget is where you anticipate we're going to be at the end of this calendar year, or
Correct.
this year.
And
And then project, okay.
Right. I did do some changes to my menus because the brunch for lunch is a very favorite meal. Every Wednesday in the elementary schools, we offer some pancakes, or another time it might be French toast, or waffles with sausage and cheese and baby carrots, of course, to make that requirement, and of course fruit or juice. And milk. So I've changed some of my menus around to really pick up the participation. Even in the high school, when I was over there and they had brunch for lunch, my goodness, the line was so long. And I said, gee, and they said it's like that every time we have brunch So maybe we'll offer them an offer there too.
Lori, maintenance issues. No, I mean, first of all, I don't know whether you know offhand how old that piece of equipment is that you just paid $2,400. But I was also wondering, there always seems to be some sort of a maintenance contract that someone's willing to offer.
Well, that is a walk-in freezer, so that was built there when that addition was built.
Okay.
So it's really hard to replace that kind of equipment.
sure.
You really have to do repairs on it. And I do preventive maintenance on all my steamers. The problem is I do that twice a year because the quality of the water here is really laden with all kinds of mineral deposits. So I do that twice a year. I have a person who does the HVAC work and refrigeration, and that's Wolf. Mike Wolf does that. I have a person who does the equipment repairs, and that's Dave Swan from City Enterprises. And because I have rationale ovens, there's a lot of people that don't have to do PMs on. I have to get K&D, which is very expensive. They don't really like this there, and I pay the travel time as well as their whatever they do there.
Very
So,
good.
yeah, but I try to keep the equipment working well because, you know, we can't work with cell slicers.
Yeah, I do.
You know, have problems like that.
I think we talked about this last year, and the balance, the fund balance that had accumulated coming into these last couple of years, was there any transfers from general fund over to this proprietary fund, or was it operating gains from the snack foods in some of those areas?
Well, over the years, up until, I actually printed out a graph. Up until 2010, 11, 2011, 12, actually, it was just a lot of operating gains from a la carte sales. And since then, and since the Healthy Hungry Kids Act came into place, the price of food, especially fruits and vegetables, going up, coupled with increases in the pension expense because this fund absorbs their own expense. So now we're in a position where we are using up, or we're having a loss. I haven't done a 5-year projection on this yet, but the state does allow the food service, the proprietary, to have 3 months of operating expense on hand, and that's $621,000.
$621,700.
So, you know, if we're getting down to 800 some thousand, we're trying to balance, you know, increasing the price a little bit and minimizing those losses per year, but still maintain that 3 months. But yeah, we're in a position now where struggling to make ends meet. But no, we haven't transferred money to food service. They always have profits. They're actually paying the general fund.
Free and reduced lunch is a loss for us, right? I mean, they're not subsidizing what we need to do.
They are subsidized.
But
We get
100%.
10 cents from the state, and that's been for several years. If we have a breakfast program, they'll give us 2 more cents. And I have a breakfast program in all my schools. The state, I have it here, the federal funds are usually coming in at a 7-cent increase. However, we never know what that's going to be until it actually comes out in writing. So this year, it was actually 5 cents. It wasn't 7 cents. So they really did cut the reimbursement. But if I add the federal and the state subsidies, I come out to $3.16 for a free meal.
Can you do a meal for $2?
Food-wise, yes.
Okay. but-
Labor-wise, no.
Okay. The point I was trying to make is that what I see is if that population continues to increase, then it seems to me that we'll be losing more money.
Possibly. We're asking for a 35-cent increase with the federal government. That seems sort of really high, but, we're hopeful. I sort of doubt it, because it just is like 7 cents each year. This year was 5. It's not keeping up with the costs of what the food is and what the regulations require.
You said that, it said there that like 8.5% of the students eat breakfast here. Now, does most of that get eaten, or does that also get thrown away?
I think most of that gets eaten, except in the high school where they just want that sandwich and they don't want clear milk with it. I even changed my pricing around, so if they just get a sandwich that's an a la carte sale, that costs more than if they get the meal. So,
Sandwich for breakfast?
it's a breakfast sandwich, has egg, cheese, and
Oh.
sausage on a roll, on a bun, and that's one of their favorites. I also offer pancakes and French toast, and we have breakfast bars. We have yogurt, all kinds of cereal. We give lots of choices.
So do any people pay for their breakfast, or is it mostly the people
There
on
are
free
some people,
reducers?
no, there are some people that pay, but for the majority, it's the free reduced kids usually coming through there.
I'll just close with one comment. I know I brought this up last year. No offense to the folks in the food service, but I see no reason why we should be carrying fund balances in a proprietary fund like this. I could see sweeping that account clean and making it from the general fund transfer every year if need be. I think there are better ways to spend $890,000 than having it sit in a fund balance in a proprietary fund.
Ironically, I was just going to say that, and Pat said it, at this stage of the game, because it's so close, and again, too, I don't know if there's anything that precludes this because of the government, us getting money or anything like that. With that type of fund sitting in there, now that we're going in that different direction, if we did a sweep and if we anticipated whether, or you still would run the same numbers,
Yeah.
but whether or not it's no different than a piece of an electric bill. It's a $40,000 cost or $60,000 or even, if we decided we're gonna break even each year. It may make sense at this point in time.
Well, what I'll do, I would like to look at the equipment that may need to be replaced, the aging equipment, and keep some type of reserve there, because that fund has been paying for that. But if it could, then the general fund.
Yeah, maybe look at like a 3 or a 5 year window to see what you have as far as expenditures. The rest of it you can funnel over. You have that money sitting, you can put it in teasers or capital projects, what have you. And then at that point in time, it would just be another line item expense.
Would there, though, be any limitations on the state and federal funds that they would be restricted themselves? I mean, I know when we get government money, you can only use it for the purpose for which it was given to you. And I'm wondering if there are any restrictions, and that's why it's kept as a separate fund.
I'm going to have to look into that. I don't know of any district that's ever done a sweep. I know what I've been asking for over the past 3 years or 4 years is more than anyone in the county is asking food service. So I'm going to have to do a little research.
I think you're going to have to look at that, because I know in any federal funding that I've ever gotten, it is very defined.
Right.
So that might be an issue.
But because it's operating already at a loss, I think that negates your concern.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I would still.
Yeah, well, I said double check.
You
but-
can research
Yeah.
it and make a decision on it. We're obviously once.
So let me just ask you then, my startup cost would be paid by general fund? Is that correct?
As far as from just accounting, you really wouldn't do anything differently. but there would not, it would just be, you would have your own income statement, but everything would just be funneled into a general fund. So it's all said and done, say you're 50,000 short, that would be a general fund expenditure. So really, not much would change, but it would eliminate this 800,000 sitting in there getting chopped 20 or 30,000 bucks at a clip. We move it over and realize that it's a yearly expense, and we utilize the funds.
Well,
So-
as Ann said, I'm not aware that any other food service in the county does anything like that. And I would think there are probably regulations even now, Ann sat in a webinar about the direct and the indirect costs, that we can claim as going towards the general fund. I'm into it, but,
I'll plan, you know,
And if you'll research it out and give us a presentation, we'll probably answer the questions. Any other questions for this question?
How often have you had the oven service? You said you had some major issues. It's like a proprietary type oven almost. We have someone come out of Lancaster. How much would you say you're spending a year on that type of
I
maintenance?
do it well, if there's a problem with it, I have to get them out. And actually, we've had one boiler replaced at a Wharton Creek already at one of our new ovens. Luckily, that was under warranty, but I had to pay for the labor. So the boiler was covered, but not the labor for the whole the installation. And normally I do the PMs once a month, once a year, and that's in the summertime.
There was a particular model that you said there was only one company that could maintain that, and they came out of Lancaster.
K&D.
And what model, what type of, and that's something you just service once a year, or are you having issues with?
I do service it once a year unless I have,
But
like the boiler.
you haven't had major breakdowns? Thought we should-
Those are the electronic, the new electronic combi ovens. I have several in New Wharton Creek, I have one in Reichton. The food gets wonderful there, I mean, it looks so fresh and cooks fast. It can be used as a steamer or an oven, and that's why I have those, because, you know, the food comes out so nice from them. But there is an expense for the K&D to come out and service them. And it seems like no other company is familiar with that type of oven that, you know, will do the PMs on it.
I have one other question for you. You said that a lot of food is wasted. Did you ever think, I know the Berks Conservancy has talked about schools recycling their food as far as so that they can put them into composting and things like that. Have you ever contacted them and to see that maybe we could get involved in such a thing like that rather than it going into the landfill?
I have not contacted them. Right now, the way it is, the paper and also the food is put into the same trash barrel. So there would have to be a way to separate that, I would think.
Right.
And
But
I
there
know
are,
that-
I think there are some schools that might be working on that because
Maybe
of
the
the,
schools that have an agriculture program will be using some of those things.
I think maybe Howard Weiser or something like
Oh,
that. You know, I know they're very much into that kind of stuff. But I was just wondering if we, you know, we might be really, I mean, you could use a lot of composting and a lot of things and, you know, within the district.
Anything else?
Okay, any other questions for this question? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I would also ask Betty, we have a new employee with us this evening. Would you introduce her?
Thank you, Mr. Quinter. The board graciously in February approved the appointment of Mrs. Marcy Elbin as the Supervisor of Human Resources. It's been wonderful Marcy's a real self-starter, and every day I check in with her, and I see the work coming out, so we're very happy to have you. Are you happy?
I'm happy to be here, yes, thank you.
Is there any other answer?
Good
She
answer.
seems happy. She seems happy.
Can we get rid of Betty yet?
I keep asking about that.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I understand you might have to leave early, so that's all right too.
Thank you.
Nothing against you.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Guidish, budget.
Okay, 8 slides, just 8.
I'll be the judge of whether or not.
Yeah.
Really looking for some guidance in a couple areas. May 12th is the tentative adoption of proposed final. June is when the final adoption, so things are going to change between now and then. But capital, right now in the general fund showing $702,000. After the April 1st meeting, there was some discussion about the track, maybe some uncertainty whether that will take place in 15-16. Do we want to have a short discussion on that? To replace the track or to repair it? I mean, that's what I was hearing after that meeting. What should we do?
And I saw that Jim's next facilities meeting is going to be at the athletic field and
Okay.
looking at the track and so forth.
Yeah, and I don't want to prevent us from something we need to pass.
Right.
I mean,
Well, no,
knowing that
it's in the
level
budget,
way
it's staying in the
that-
budget for now. That change could be made after that.
What's the time period that you require Mr. Pitts
That's
to be able to bring a contractor in, whether it be repair or complete replacement?
Well, for both of them, it's going to be the same contractor. It's going to be a question of how quickly their docket fills up. The sooner we make a decision, the sooner we can contact them on either one, the repair or the replacement, to try and get a favorable window put in there. The longer we wait, the more other customers will set their times, and we may be pushing into possibly August, which would impact football, preseason, that kind of thing.
Well, if we if we agree that we have to at least do the repair work, would that reserve them to come in as a date, not, June 15th? And then along the way, we evaluate and say, instead of repair, we'd like you to do the replacement, they would just extend their period of time here from June 15th to July 15th instead of June 30th?
If we reserve them for repair, and I'm purely spitballing here, they may have a crew for 2 days, whereas we do the whole replacement, that's 10 days. They will book their time up as much as they can. If they don't have the business, I mean, if no one is doing anything and they're wide open, we could be very fortunate. But there's no way for me to tell, shy of saying, please put us on your schedule, we are going to do X or Y. There's no way for me to tell what time frame we can get things done.
Well, Jim, I talked to Mr. Legath earlier today. We're trying to get a date for the athletic committee meeting. We actually discussed possibly having it before your meeting on Wednesday at the facility
That's
as
okay.
well. So look, it was Wednesday the 5th?
Correct, so you're going to do it the 5th?
No,
Or
the same night.
Okay, good.
Because you're
That's
going
what
to
I'm
be
saying, same day, different
there, so
time.
we could be there, look at the track. I'm concerned from a safety standpoint. I know we have, last year, we've done patchwork there. There's a lot of people using that track, including the community.
I know
Mr.
that
Staub.
today they couldn't do the pole vaulting.
Did Mr. McGath talk to you this evening? As in after?
I don't think so.
After 4:30?
Why?
Because-
I can't remember. I talked to him, but I can't remember when. I'm getting old, Ken.
The officials basically canceled the track meet today
Right.
because the pole vault runway and the long jump runway, they deemed unsafe. That's part of what was.
Well, that's what I said, because I know last year when we went around and we had done the review, that we were able to fill in the cracks and do what needed to be done, and it was safe for everyone. My concern, though, is we do that again, it's throwing good money after bad, and we still have to get the track totally redone. So that's when we talked about possibly having the meeting before Jim's meeting. Would be a little bit extra time, but I think it may be good to have everyone at the same place. So we were thinking about doing it around 5.
By the way, the 6th is a Wednesday.
The same night you have your
Because
meeting.
the 5th, so we just want to make sure.
Yeah, no.
Russ started pointing out, I said, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So
I'm like-
6th.
Yeah. The night you have a meeting.
It's Wednesday, because I didn't want to override Russ's meeting.
Okay.
That was my.
Well, Russ, you can have yours at 3:30 then.
You're retired, you can do anything you want.
So that's the
Well-
tentative plans. I'll confirm that and let everyone know. If that'll work that way, we can, because I think the athletic committee as well as the facilities committee should look at that track to make sure, because if there's safety issues, we got to fix it.
Well,
Right.
we may want to actually have a dual meeting, and the reason I'm saying is my goal that night is we start the track, we look at the new field, we can look at the baseball, we look at the softball, we look at, we're going to look at all the sports facilities because we're there, and then from there we'll go further into the building, but that's going to be the first thing, so we may want to have it overlap beyond just the track.
All right, so it's decided. Ken, take our chances on the thing. You can't obligate one or the other tonight.
Ken,
Or
question.
scheduling and.
Well,
leads
I'll work my
company.
schedule to be there that Wednesday night.
No, the scheduling for the contractors.
But to get it done.
And May 12th is a special voting meeting. Would May 12th be, I mean, if the decision's made and the
Yeah,
board wants to
absolutely.
approve going ahead?
Absolutely.
Is there only one vendor that can do this?
No.
If we would
There's several
replace-
that are under state contract.
Okay.
We would like to get the best, to be able to get the best product or the best final finish, which will last the longest lifespan.
Yeah, my question would be, if we were going to replace it, wouldn't we have to bid it?
Under the state contracting laws, if we go do an approved vendor, they've already been pre-bidded under the
You answered my question, thank
buying
you.
system.
I just have one question. Ken, who keeps the maintenance records on repairs?
If you're asking in terms of a log of times that we've done
Like
things.
how many times have we repaired the track? Do we have a quantitative measure that says it was repaired at this date, at this cost, over this?
Without researching the purchase orders, I don't have that. Anecdotally, I can say that we've done between $3,000 and $9,000 worth of repair about every other year for the last 6 or 7. So average, if you want to average or annualize, we've probably done $4,000 worth of repairs every year for the last 6 or 7.
So I mean, it is used heavily, but it's also used inappropriately. I mean, when you look at all the teams that play on the field, they're all cleated sports, and they're all running on that track, whether they're coming onto the field at the far end or whatever. I mean, it is, I don't know if there's a way, it's probably a pain in the butt to do, but is there a way to put something down that protects the rubberized portion of the track so that it doesn't get as shredded?
They used to have a mat that went across that, didn't they, on football?
There's mats that Stanley got many years ago that we still use for the May Days use of the stadium. They are large and heavy, and there are multiple things. They're not an easy on, easy off.
And that was every Friday night, I thought. I mean, I just remember our kids always marching over the thing. For football games, and kids were running around back like 10 years ago.
Can't speak to that.
Well, the other thing I would just say is I do walk on that track every weekend. There are clearly some infrastructure. You know, those cement, that's cement going up to the stadiums where all of the handrails are. That's all cracking. I know you repainted all of that, the handrails about 2 years ago. They've all rusted through again already. You know, in less than 2 years. If you go look to the back of the tennis courts, if you go down around the back where the baseball field is, those walls all have, I don't know whether that's a structural issue or not at some point, but those walls all have big cracks in them. And I don't know what the long-term implications. And the fencing, especially around the inside of the field, the fence that runs around the field, not the one that runs around the whole, that is also falling apart in places as well. So I think we have to look at all of them.
That's the goal that night is to, come rain or shine, and David has already told me he'll be wearing his official running spikes from when he was in high school, so he can show his prowess on the 100 yards. And Bob will be sprinting him for about 10.
I'll bring my calendar to time.
Something for us all to look forward to.
That's wrong.
Pressing on, please.
And this is just a summary of the funds we have dedicated toward capital. We will have to adopt the capital budget, but the $702,000, we do have a number in for the transportation center. That's, a work in progress. But I did provide you also with a more detailed sheet in addition to Mr. Pitts's 5-6 year, projection. Joe and I have been talking a lot about the Chromebooks and financing proposals. I've been in discussions with Lenovo, and I picked up a couple other financing companies, First American, Winthrop, this is through Fulton. But what we really have been discussing is if we were to lease these, what type of lease? And in speaking with all three parties, the representatives, in the situation of a Chromebook, they highly recommend that you do a fair market value lease, that it's just a pure operating or just a rental, because at the end of 3 years, even more than 4 years, you're not going to want that piece of equipment anymore, because that's the end of its life. What they've been telling me is that most school districts who have Chromebooks are not like a laptop. Laptops will last longer. Chromebooks are more like a tablet. So what schools do with Chromebooks, they refresh them every, some 2 years. I think that's a little bit too aggressive. Every 3 years, or they received a proposal for after 4 years. We don't know. We really haven't been through this yet. So are we going to be able to make them last 4 years? We don't know that yet.
So, and the definition of a refresh is what they...
Meaning we
roll out
send them
all
back, we send them back, and then we start another rental for fresh machines.
So they're not upgrading it or fixing it or whatever. and
No.
getting rid of that new ones or
Right.
whatever.
I mean, we might be charged for those that are damaged, that have been operating, but after 3 years, you're not gonna have a lot of those. After 4 years, you probably will have more. And they sell them on a secondary market. So if the...
Wilson School District getting
Well, I spoke with their technology supervisor, and this go around, I think they have the dollar buyout, and I'm not sure, they're dealing with Dell. They got a really good deal on the dollar buyout, but their challenges, as Joe's challenge, at the end of 4 years, they don't want them. Should they give them to the students, or what do they do? But they got a good deal on a dollar buyout. So in any event, I'm evaluating this, but it could reduce our cash, rather than paying in cash, $266,000, doing a lease would reduce that expense in the general fund budget by, approximately $182,000, and I'll show you that a little later. Are there any concerns about doing a rental versus wanting to do?
What's that cost the district to rent? I mean, if
Well,
we
this
have
is
the
the
money,
cost right here.
percentage-wise.
Well, when you're doing a 24 or 36-month lease, what you're doing is, the whole idea here is minimizing your annual payment. That's the whole point of it. Now, how they
I
figure
guess
out
I'm asking, what was the cost of the money? I mean, if the money's in, we have the money, it's in our accounts, we're not earning a lot of interest.
Well, I get where
No
I'm.
cash flow, David.
Yeah,
It's just cash flow.
Yeah, but we have the cash.
but what I'm concerned about is Joe, and this being rolled out to, having to refresh the 9th grade, this current 9th grade. in 18, 19, and then rolling it out to grades 7 and 8, and then grades 5 and 6. So really trying to, and Joe's working on a matrix on, how that would occur, whether it's every 4 years or every 3 years. Just trying to spread out that expense in the budget rather than these huge sums in 1 year and maybe the next third year. And with the budget challenges that are coming up in the next couple years, trying to fit everything into the budget, this is just an alternative to fit it in. So that's what I was trying to.
But are we paying 2, 3, 4% more for renting the computers instead of just outright buying them?
Well, if you were doing a dollar buyout, maybe that's the best way to look at it. This would probably equate to around 2.3% interest on that. I think that's what I figured.
Costs you $20,000 extra to spread the cost over 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're looking at. So we make that decision. Does it make better sense to spread your costs? It's like us, we talked about, if we could take our bond financing and put it out 25 years, it would solve a lot of problems. But unfortunately, we can't based on what the state tells us we can't do.
Yeah.
Yes, but this is one where we would have an opportunity to do it over time. So you would pay a little bit extra up front, or pay less up front and spread it out a little bit more. So it just gives them more flexibility.
But isn't, once you get to the 4-year, then you have a fully loaded system where the cash flows are going to be the same? Once maybe the first year or the second year or the third year, but once you kind of get past that,
Yeah.
then what
to
you're
a
doing
point
is you
where
literally
it's-
are paying
It's your ongoing cost.
fee
Yeah,
to lease.
yeah, it's your ongoing cost, yeah.
So,
But Joe and I are still struggling with 36-month versus 4 years because the maintenance program on that piece that protects the Chromebook is a 3-year program so we're working on this, but it is, just wanted to make you aware that after 3 or 4 years, we're not going to want these Chromebooks. But there is the opportunity to buy some of them if we wanted to have more, maybe of an inventory on hand, if there is some relief. Some good news, and maybe some deferred bad news. The phone system. We don't think we're going to replace it in 15, 16, and this is probably news to both of you. I had a conversation with CSI, and they actually have a couple years of supply inventory parts available, and Joe also had a conversation with them. So rather than spend that money now, we will, we have a vendor that we've identified to purchase a new system, but if they do have the parts and they feel that our systems would be okay, there are a couple parts that they'd have to get on the secondary market because a Watsu is no longer, but we don't think they're high risk. But at least taking this out of the budget for next year is probably the prudent thing to do, but we will have to replace it within a couple of years.
Yeah, that's good.
So what does that do to our fund balance? Reducing our expenses by I have 182,000, that's if we do it. The Chromebook versus cash purchase, it, would reduce 266,000 versus 80-some thousand, or whatever the number we come up with. So again, we'll work through these numbers through May 12th, and you'll have another update May 12th, but can't go above 8% of your unassigned fund balance. So really, with no money from the governor's budget included in here, a tax limit of a little above 1.5%. Now, if we include the governor's 440,000, which is half, ballparking half, again, this just changes the scenario because you're including revenue, which flows to your fund balance, obviously, helps your deficit. So again, here, the tax increase could be limited to 0.25 mil, because if you reflect that money, and that's the question. Should we reflect that money? School districts are talking, and from the information I have, there's 5 that are not including any of the governor's money, nor the decrease in expense. One's increasing their BEF by 1.5%, waiting to see what happens in June. One school district 25% of what the governor is proposing, 2 50%. And if it doesn't happen, they'll use fund balance, and then there's 2 100% of funding of the governor's funding, but they're offsetting it in as a transfer to capital reserve or budgetary reserve. So the net effect on fund balance is 0. So they're just hedging themselves. Okay, we'll put it in, but then we're taking it out on the expense side. So I really, at this point, any comments?
Will there be any information available between now and the 12th when we go over this again, as far as feeling more comfortable with the number?
I highly doubt it. We have no reason to believe, I don't have any reason to believe that we can get any, unless something shocking happens, but you're not that far in the process.
Right, no, I don't think there's going to be any revelation.
Yeah, I was with the acting secretary of education on Sunday, and his comments were, he's getting a great deal of pushback from the legislature about the letter that he sent. They are really, they're just raking him over the coals about anyone believing that any of that money's ever going to happen. And yet, I saw Dave Reed yesterday, who's the majority leader of the House, and he's spinning this whole new feeling of bipartisanship, and that Wolf's demeanor has been so exciting to even members of his own party. And yet, it was really funny. I was on my way to Harrisburg, and I'm listening to KYW, and they have an interview with Dave Reed. And Reed says there's not one GOP vote. I meet with him at 10 o'clock. So you don't know what these people are doing. I don't know. Everyone I spoke with at Mechanicsburg on Sunday says that their districts are not using any of this money.
Well, it'll make a good argument for not passing any of the money too.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
look, the
if you
districts are all
can, yeah,
balanced
right, if you
budget.
can do it, yes.
Yeah,
Right,
that's the problem.
Yes.
They've all balanced their budgets, and they've approved, without even including any of it, so they can
Wow.
obviously get along without it.
I guess the thought is then we should always we go forward with this, just have plan B, that's all.
Right. I think that's what you need to do, have 2 scenarios.
Yeah, but I would agree with you. I think that's probably the best foot forward we can use, just use the money that we're going to get.
One thing on the Chromebook, she had talked about the warranty of the maintenance program. I would be very careful about having financing for a longer term in your maintenance program.
right.
I don't think that's clear, if we're gonna do, if it's a 36-month program, I think the limit, so these should be limited to 36.
Yeah, Joe, well, he's going to ask about if they would extend 4 years, so we'll update you between now and May 12th. Additional information. Again, what 0.25 mil increase would be, $26, 1.5 mil, 1.5%, $50 average household. And then, I think we talked about all this already. And the resolution for the tentative adoption really just states the expense amount, but the state's official forms, I will have to reflect some does reflect the millage increase. So we'll talk more about that.
That's the 12th.
The 12th.
The 12th, okay.
That's it.
Any further questions, Frank? Moving on then. We have 2 sets of minutes to adopt. I'll accept the resolution to accept those minutes.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion, second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes as printed, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
I move that we accept the financial statements for the period ending 3/31/2015, and that is an attachment I-B.
Second.
A motion, and second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the report, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a recommended change of school policy number 217 regarding graduation requirements. We have had 4 readings, or this is the 4th reading. I'll entertain a motion to accept that change.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the new policy, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Tomorrow, business functions.
Business functions on page 1 under number 6. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves budget transfers for the month of March 2015 in the amount of $148,165. That's under attachment 6A.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under 6B, it is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves a resolution in support of urging the Pennsylvania General Assembly to establish a new funding formula for basic education, attachment 6B.
Second.
A motion and a second, that is a motion, right, Dr. Flynn?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I have a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the funding formula resolution, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under 6C, it is recommended that the Board of School Directors authorizes the filing of a request for a special exemption with the Zoning Hearing Board of Exeter Township for construction of a transportation center on district property located at 5,000 Boyertown Pike, and directs the administration, director, solicitor, architect, and engineer to take any and all necessary actions to carry out the request for a special exemption.
Second.
A motion and a second, discussion.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I would just like to say that I did, with several other board members, attend the Planning Commission meeting last night, at which the preliminary land development plan, not even in that phase yet, I don't think, was discussed. And, the one thing that I really was surprised at was the concern about sort of the environmental degradation of the property. A lot of, we're going to lose the walking trail. We're going to be putting gas tanks on that property, so there's always the potential for that becoming a hazmat site. We are losing some fields, soccer field, and we also, what I found out last night, which I didn't understand ahead of time, was that we're locating that facility right at the headwaters of a protected waterway. So I think we may have some issues with the DEP and EPA, and I think there's a concern that the costs would increase there. So that was a little bit of an eye-opener for me last night. And, for most of you probably know this, but tomorrow is Earth Day. So I thought it was sort of appropriate, and I'll give a little hat tip to Joni Mitchell here, but I think we are paving over Paradise and putting in a parking lot.
Any additional comments?
I too am very concerned about the environmental issues and about the water situation. I think Awatten Creek was a green school, and I think a bus barn there with the possibility of maybe rupturing some of the tanks and polluting the water is very detrimental, not only to the school district, but to the whole community. And I'm not sure that, I guess, from what I learned there at that meeting, it seemed like we were doing things backwards, that the architects or whoever should have gone to the zoning board prior to us doing things. I know, Mr. Clear, I know we need another bus facility, but I really now cannot believe it can be on Awatten Creek facility. So I will be voting against it.
Mr. Pitts?
I'd just like to point out some things that the architect pointed out from the plan. The walking path actually is getting converted. It will still be a walking path, so that is a correction from what was expressed earlier. The tanks will be above ground, which is safer than underground tanks. They will have ballistic protection and will meet all the EPA requirements. All the things that the Planning Commission brought up last night are all things that have already been discussed during the architect and site contractor discussions. In terms of DEP, as long as we're following all the rules, which the architects and the site contractors are already aware of, we're not foreseeing problems. The Planning Commission was doing their due diligence to bring all these issues up, but nothing was a surprise except for maybe the wording of the zoning exception that we're looking at. Regardless of which piece of property we were going to put something on, or if we did anything on Kerr Road, we would require a zoning exemption. Whether it was, any of our properties are not zoned to put a bus facility on. So regardless of whether it stayed on Kerr Road and we renovated, or we went to any of the other properties we looked at, the zoning requirement would still be there. And that, it was the only, I think the only thing that was a surprise to the architect was the wording of the regulation of one of the committee members had said. Thank you.
There were a lot of questions they couldn't understand though too. So, and again, I realized it was just a planning, an initial step, but.
What I would like to point out is just that. That was an informal discussion with the Planning Commission. It gives us an idea in this process on what they're going to be looking for, and it ensures that when they have an idea what we're doing, it's just the first step, and it has nothing to do with anything other than it is the way it's done in Exeter Township. The question about the zoning regulations, that is questionable and will be researched by our solicitor and their solicitor, and we'll come to a resolution of that. Now, sir, I invited the public to make comment earlier. I'm going to make an exception. That is the normal process at the beginning.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Jason Mel, 401 Pathfinder Drive. Just the one question. Mr. Shane last night at the Planning Commission did bring up the zoning variance and mentioned that in order to get a variance approved, the district would have to prove a hardship. So I guess I'm just wondering, does the district know at this time if there is a hardship that can be proved?
I don't think the district agrees with its interpretation of the ordinance.
Okay, so there's still some conflict here.
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Mosley, in reference to your comment, it seems that it was very clear that you cannot build a garage or maintenance facility. If you cannot do that, then you have to pursue the option of a hardship.
We don't think that that's in the ordinance, okay? That there's a prohibition against doing garage or maintenance facility as an accessory use.
I'm not a lawyer,
We
but
disagree.
it would seem very easy to see if that language is there.
It's not.
So, what was Mr. Shane reading last night?
So, where did that come from then? That he's,
I don't know.
I've never heard of such a thing.
But, Bob, you do agree, though, and that exception from 08 does say that that property was restricted to the development of schools.
Said that anything that was put on there to include schools would have to go. So we're approaching the township in a way that's,
I got it.
that they
Prescribed process.
prescribed.
I
and we will
understand.
go through the process.
But it's ironic, though, that, you know, I kind of feel the same way Tim does at this point. I think we feel sort of misled then if we were in that planning, not by this committee, but in that planning commission meeting, if they were reading a document that said it's, he couldn't have been more explicit last
exactly.
night.
I agree. I mean, I would interpret his statement exactly as you interpreted it.
But you're saying it.
I disagree with it.
Well, I guess the question is not so much an agreement or disagreement as does it exist? Does that language that he read exist? I think that's what we're saying.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. Then I guess
And I
we'll find
too
out.
have read the zoning manual and the rewrite of it, and I can't find it either. So
Maybe that's what we'll
but
find out through the process.
we'll find out through the process. Is there any further discussion? We're voting on bringing the matter before the zoning hearing board.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is that I shouldn't have gone to yesterday's meeting because it was a wake-up call. I was way in over my head listening to this, and I will admit that. But they brought up enough concerns that I wouldn't want to spend a lot of money before we got these approvals. Because, these are professionals sitting on that panel, and they went up and down and raised issue after issue after issue, that even I would say that at times our folks at the architecture group didn't seem to have a really easy answer for. Stuff like pitch on, the backup and water runoff and environmental issues, and there were a lot of things thrown up in the air yesterday that concerned me more than I had going in.
I think what you have to remember, Tim, is your guys just like us. Nick was a Navy officer. Don Wilson, I don't know what Don did, but and they are working based upon doing the same thing we are.
Tim, just the only, and it's not a problem with the township, but I am getting my apron for my sidewalk and my driveway redone. It's an 11-page application. Checks, permits, there's stuff that I'm gonna have to ask Jim about how to answer them. I'm like, this exists already. And then I said, there's an easement in my apron. No, there's not. I'm like, well, I tell you what, I go out there and there's a big brown thing that says water on it. I says, well, it's not there. I'm like, but when we were talking, they were looking at the plans, they have it out in the street. So I can only imagine something of this magnitude, and I wasn't able to get there for work. And because I know it was just, I'm literally filling this thing out like, what am I doing here? And it's frustrating just on something like that. So I can't even imagine what is to this extent. And so I'm just sharing that only for something minor like the driveway.
As an aside, the township recognizes some of these problems, and that's what the steering committee that we're working with them on is addressing. So there is hope for 2024 or something.
But just a comment real quick. I've been present for the conversations that we've had on previous building projects. The zoning board is always challenging. And secondly, we just went through, the CTC just went through the same process in Fern Township and just as difficult. And a lot of it just it just somehow eludes common sense in every possible way. So I think what we need to do is go through the process.
We have a motion and a second to bring the matter of the Transportation Center before the zoning hearing board. All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The vote is 6-2. And is carried.
Under 6D, it is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the property tax refund in the amount of $2,499 to the property owners Thomas P. and Carol A. Herbert due to the exemption granted for the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs granted 7/1/2014.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of granting the reprieve, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under 6E, it is recommended that the Board of School Directors appoint Dr. Elizabeth A. Weber as the management representative to the Berks County School District's Health Trust effective July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under 6F, it is recommended that the Board of School Directors ratifies the renewal of an electricity procurement agreement with Direct Energy for a 24-month period from June 1st, 2015 through May 31st, 2017. The fixed purchase price is 6.19 cents per kilowatt hour. This is the same price as in the current contract, which expires May 31st, 2015. The Board of School Directors authorized the District Administration to execute an electricity purchase contract with Direct Energy at a cost not to exceed a 5% increase at the February 17, 2015 meeting.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion?
And is there any chance that a contract like this is ever elected for more than a 2-year period?
I don't know that there's contracts out that far, and there's so much, Ken could probably
You
speak
can
about.
purchase contracts out for as long as someone's willing to hedge it, but beyond 2 years, your hedging becomes a lot more dramatic because of fluctuations. If it was really a great rate and the corresponding hedging would do it, we would take advantage of it. There are actually several times when we did not go up 2 years because a 2-year hedge rate was bad. But 2 years is pretty much the long term that you want to push things.
In response to your query last week, the IU is looking into a joint offering of electrical services. So that may be something we see in the future where all 18 school districts would provide.
That makes sense.
But moving on with the motion at hand, if there's no further discussion, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under 6G, it is recommended that the Board of School Directors authorizes the advertising for bids for the Lorraine Elementary School parking lot paving project.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion?
So this is a proposed budget for this is $150,000. So Ken, how does that work? What do you do when you let this out for bid? What's your timeline? I mean, I know this project has been put on for years, but what process do you undertake?
I will work with an engineering firm. I'm meeting with them tomorrow. We'll start putting together specifications of the specific requirements of Lorraine, both the layout and the areas that are probably going to need repair as well. They'll prepare specifications as well as bidding documents. We will advertise 3 weeks in a row. Chances are we'll have about 4 or 5 bidders come in on those contracts. We will bid them as a primary bid with a couple of alternates. We'll look at the main areas that are having problems. And some of the playground areas are cracking, but they don't get any vehicle traffic. We'll have those as alternate bids, and we will try to get as much done within the $150,000 limit.
What's the time frame for a project like that?
The other ones we've had that were comparable in size range between 3 and 5 weeks.
And what's the shelf life once it's completed?
It should be 15 years if we do nothing. If we reseal like every 10 years or so, we could extend it indefinitely as long as we don't have any type of sub-base failure. In the past, we hadn't done those. We started doing the sealing projects every summer to try and extend the lives. So hopefully we can put those off indefinitely. Eventually, at some point, it fails, but seal coating can extend it for decades.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor of paving the Lorraine Elementary School parking lot, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under 6H, it is recommended that the Board of School Directors ratifies an information technology services agreement with Global Data Consultants, LLC, to perform professional services for ongoing support and enhancements to Exeter Township School District's network and computer infrastructure. The charge is $118 per hour for a 50-hour block of service time. The specific services included are MS SharePoint services, server operating system and associated application support, application support cleanup and security, and finally training and knowledge transfer.
I have a second discussion.
Is this a replacement contract? Do we have one in place now?
Joe Way Technology was working, that has ended with another company that had ended and really wasn't satisfied with their service, so this is taking place.
Similar cost, Dan, or is it a significant increase?
I'm not sure it said this was actually
Less.
less expensive.
Still
Not by
has some
much
questions.
maybe, but a little bit.
And these are things that really
Yeah, that's fine.
he wanted accomplished.
I think the former was 175, the thing that Joe let put out. So. Any further discussion? All in favor of letting the contract, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under 6I, it is reported that the Pennsylvania Department of Education has approved Plan Con Part K, project refinancing of issuance of general obligation note, series of 2015 to refund general obligation bonds, Series A of 2009 and Series B of 2009. The reimbursable percentage on the refunded bonds is 23.53%.
Second.
I don't believe that's a
Really?
motion, it's just a
Just
report
reporting
of
type
status.
of-
And then under 6J, it is recommended that the Board of School Directors authorizes district administration to accept a proposal from Conrad Siegel Actuaries for a medical reimbursement plan evaluation, XFlex, of plan compliance with Affordable Care Act regulations at a cost not to exceed $1,500. And the board directs administration to take steps to ensure compliance, which may include the development of a plan document.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion.
I have a question. Is XFlex the only component of our medical benefits plan that would be under question in terms of the Affordable Care Act and Cadillac funds?
Yes, that's the only one that at this point we need to make it, what we currently have compliant with the Affordable Care Act.
One thing we have to watch are the hours of some of our substitutes who work every day, so we have to.
So they can't exceed 30.
Right, right. And we have a way to track that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So what is the expected outcome from this assessment? Are we just trying to look at our exposure? You know, could this lead to the reduction of this benefit or the removal of the benefit?
Well, I'm not, this is the place to talk about it. Most school districts are going away from this health reimbursement or expense because, you know, the more that you add on to the benefit that you're offering your employees, you're getting closer to that Cadillac tax. So you really want to really minimize anything additional.
The X-Flex benefit would be counted in with the cost.
Well, any findings from this will help us to work with our employee groups going forward too, to see what adjustments may need to be made.
Working with the consortium to buy the insurance, they're constantly evaluating and studying what is offered. The X-Flex represents a portion of our benefits which are provided by some, but not all, of the school districts in the county. So this analysis will give us the impact that the IU studies would not provide with us, that we can bring forth to the employees and say, look, if we don't reduce this by $100 next year, we're going to have to pay 60% tax on the benefits, and we can't afford to do that.
If we have the X-Flex, if we continue to have that, then we have to have a plan document that makes us compliant, integrating it in to the medical plan.
Right, and there are certain situations where this type of benefit, it has to be associated with a group health insurance plan where somebody is eligible for that, either through our district or maybe through a spouse. You cannot offer it to someone who does not have a group, that does not have a group health insurance plan. You must offer an opt-out annually because if someone decides that they want to go out into the market to purchase health insurance and get a subsidy, well, that's why you must get the opt-out. So those are the two main things: document, opt-out, making sure we're only offering it to those that are eligible.
Is that available to all employees?
Depends on the group.
For those that have full-time employees that are eligible for health insurance, we have a little quirky thing in the food service which we're working on.
Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of conducting the study, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Tamura. Dr. Bender, personnel.
I move the Board of School Directors accept the following retirements listed under Part A, number 1, certificated staff, Donald D. Zook, and number 2, support staff, Alan Ziemba.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion?
Question, I guess this goes to either Mrs. Guys or Dr. Martin. With regards to Mr. Zook's retirement, has this been anticipated in the next year's staffing requirements or budget? Or is this something that just came up?
Well, it's
Not
been
reflected
factored
to say
into it,
that.
right, right.
Any further discussion? All in favor of approval of the retirements, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve or ratify the following resignations listed under Part B, number 1, administrative staff, number 2, support staff, and number 3, extracurricular staff.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the resignations, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve or ratify the following appointments under C, number 1, is certificated staff, A, Michelle Ops, B, Lauren Bacala, and C, Allison Stiles.
Second.
Motion, second discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the appointments, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve the following substitute teachers listed on Part 2, Number A, certificated.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the certificated teachers as substitutes as listed, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve the following substitute teachers as guest teachers listed under Part 2, Part B.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. All in favor of approving the guest teachers, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
I recommend that the Board of School Directors approve the following appointments under number 3, support staff A through D.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve the following leaves of absence listed in Part D, number 1, A and B, and number 2, support staff.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor of approving the leaves of absence, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve or ratify the following requests for a change of status listed under Part E, number 1, support staff, and number 2, extracurricular staff.
A motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor of approving the statuses listed, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of School Directors approve the following staff conferences listed under Part F, number 1 through 11.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in approval of the conferences, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That completes personnel.
Thank you, Dr. Bender. Student functions. We have a one here.
Roman 8A, just reporting the field trips within the 60-mile radius. The field trip beyond the 60-mile radius. So, you want to, you know you're going to do. Yeah, okay. I move that we approve a senior high school TSA club members to travel to Seven Springs, Pennsylvania on April 15th to 17th, 2015 for the TSA state competition.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the senior high science Olympiad members be approved to travel to Juniata College on April 24th to 25th, 2015 to participate in the Pennsylvania State Science Olympiad.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move to approve that the senior high varsity baseball team and coaches to Disney Wide World of Sports in Orlando, Florida from March 16th to March 21st, 2016 to participate in spring training, to play scrimmage games, and to use the practice facilities.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion.
That's a self-funded trip, right? They do that all themselves.
How many days will the students be busy this year?
1.5.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
I move that the Board of School Directors approve June 8, 2015 as an Act 80 day for professional development in the 2014-2015 school year.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion.
May I speak to this item?
Yes, ma'am.
The June 8th would be the fourth snow day to be made up, the fourth and final snow day that would need to be made up. Because it falls into the next week in June, and the Monday after graduation, after what would have been the last day, we feel it'd be much more valuable. A lot of students will not be there because they have vacations planned that week and so forth. Attendance will be low. It's a half day for kids anyway, but it's a full day for teachers. So we'd like to take advantage of it by having a full professional development day. Gives us an opportunity to do some vital training, such as the one-to-one completion of the one-to-one rollout for the senior high teachers on that day, and other very important initiatives. Dr. Davies been working with the tech department and Mrs. Klein and so forth to come up with a menu of good opportunities for the teachers. And they'll also be able to take their Chromebooks home that day, so that whatever they learn on that day, they will be able to practice throughout the summer, and then have opportunities to come in during the summer for flex day, training, to have further training in one-to-one.
Any questions, comments from Dr. Martin? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I move that the Board of School Directors approves a resolution supporting locally developed authentic assessments as drivers of instruction, calls on the governor, the state legislature, and state education board and administrators to re-examine public school accountability systems and to develop a system based on multiple forms of evidence that does not require extensive standardized testing, and calls on the United States Congress and administration to overhaul the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, also known as No Child Left Behind.
Second.
A motion and second, discussion.
I will vote for this simply because I think that there is too much time spent on standardized testing. And I also will vote on this to give a unanimous vote from Exeter schools. But I will make my opinion known that I think that we need to play by the assessment rules that are determining so much from the state. I think other people are playing it. I do not see the problem of teaching the test, because that is the curriculum that's prescribed. I don't see a problem with that. And finally, I see problems where we use a word like authentic assessments. I know nowhere in the research, I know valid, I know reliable, but I don't know what authentic assessments are. And I think it potentially gets us into trouble.
Any further discussion?
Does somebody know what authentic means in this context?
Authentic assessments are something that students would use in their regular life, and something we're using every day. And sometimes the assessments that are given on standardized testing, where you're circling in a bubble sheet or something that has multiple choice answers, and authentic. Kids aren't exposed to those kinds of problems in the real world, and when they take tests every year that give them multiple choices, it's unrealistic and it's not authentic. And I think one of the things we are trying to do with our new math program is to get kids to think critically and out of the box, so that when they are solving problems, they're not limited to 4 possible answers, but something that they're coming up with themselves or with their peers. And that's what authentic is. That's what we do every day. We don't have options like that. So I think it's very limiting.
But I also want to be clear that we really do play by the testing rules to the extreme. In a case I just learned of today that we discussed, we do everything by the book. We prepare the kids the best we can. The teachers are always so concerned about how well the kids will do, and we don't want it to be everything. That's all we're saying. We don't want it to be everything. We don't want it to be carried to the ridiculous level. And in some cases, it is being carried based on what the state is prescribing for us to do. And I can give you some examples of, you know, we have no problems with kids taking tests, but the test should be, you know, shouldn't encompass, I don't know how many hours of their lives, and take them away from other.
We have kids taking it in Rifton that begin at 9 o'clock and finish at 2:30 in the afternoon. And principals are asking questions about lunch.
Aren't allowed to have lunch, because when you call the state and ask, they say, no, they can't leave the room until they're done. So, I mean, there are other, in one case, a student did something that had no impact at all on the test, didn't even have the test in front of them, yet because the state prescribed that we had to report that, and we did as we were told, the state said the student has to retake a week's worth of tests for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Those are the kinds of ridiculous things, and you know, having schools and teachers and principals judged by one test. That, you know, a kid could be sick that day, a kid could be upset that day, a kid could be going through trauma that day, emotional issues, a kid could be hungry that day. You just don't know. That isn't the whole of how well we educate our kids. But I agree with you, you know, there is some value to that test, and we're not trying to dismiss that through this resolution.
I want to say I strongly support this resolution. The concept that no child left behind, that all children, no matter what their mental abilities are, can reach proficiency is a fallacy. You can take, and the unfortunate thing is, all these students must take these tests, all specialized students, whether children have emotional problems, whether children get upset when taking a test. And how many hours, like, is it 9 days, or how many days?
Depending on the grade level, it could be for 4th grade and 8th grade, take science.
Yeah.
How many?
Could be as many as, depending on how long they're taking the test for, 3 days for math, 3 days for reading,
Yeah.
2 days for science perhaps. Is that about right? For science, 2 days?
Well, you know, I don't know about you, but I remember when I took when I was getting my master's degree, and I had to take my orals and I had to take my writtens. By the time I got done doing those, I was mentally drained. Now, you know, when you have these kids all day long, maybe that's a little bit for my ability, I don't know. But when you have these kids all day long taking tests for days, I mean, I would think that a lot of these children are mentally drained too. And you're taking 2nd graders and 3rd graders. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the worst part of it is that tests are given so that people can see, you know, what children do not know, and then can correct it. These teachers never, ever, ever get to see what the student did or did not know, because the student goes on to the next grade. These are only money making. The test companies are making billions and billions of dollars, and there's no value in it other than to say, oh, this school is at a 50%, or this school is at a 70%, or whatever, you know, whatever their benchmark is. So I strongly support this, and many people our parents are opting out of these tests. And they're starting down in Lower Marion where there's money, because they think it's ridiculous that these children have to take these tests. I mean, they even want to have kindergartners starting to take tests to see where they are going to be, and channel them for a job when they get graduated. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I strongly support it.
I'm going to vote in favor of this motion, which I strongly support on, but it's an outward-looking motion. It doesn't ask us to examine what we're doing in the district. And I think we need to also examine the amount of standardized testing we use in the district in terms of the beginning of the year tests and mid-year tests and pre-tests. And I mean, we heard about that with the English, right, that they give the CDTs.
Oh, the CDTs,
So
yeah.
I think
it's-
it even perverts
Well,
this
but-
that we're objecting to, that we do the over
But
testing.
again, the only place they do that is at the high school, and you have to understand the stakes are so high because the CDTs help, the teachers to know what to focus on in terms of the Keystone exams, and those are needed for graduation. So, that's why, that's the justification for that, because, the kids end up with remedial courses and, having to do a project if they can't pass the test, and it's 3 tests, it's not just 1. So, I hear what you're saying. We really don't do a lot of standardized testing that isn't mandated by the state, but you're right, the CBTs are used, but I would hate to not have something that would help a kid to have a better chance of being proficient on a test that they can't graduate with. It's my only, and again, even though the CBT isn't mandated, it comes as a result of the mandate.
Yeah, and that's where I see us perverting.
Well, we're trying to toe the line of playing, the testing game, so to speak, and also, being opposed to the amount of testing and some of the ridiculous rules that go along with it.
Any further comments? All in favor of approving the resolution, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Diesinger. Would you move on to curriculum and programs?
Yeah. I move that the Board of School Directors authorize the appropriate school representative to submit to the Pennsylvania Department of Education contingent on federal and state funding of the following grants: Title I, Title II, Title III, Alternative Education, the Accountability Block Grant, and/or its Ready to Learn grant.
A motion, second discussion.
About how much money do we get, like, from Title I and Title II and Title III, alternative education? I mean, is there
Our
a set
federal
amount?
funds, our federal funds are around $550,000 approximately in total.
$1 is what we typically, Title I's for something, Title II isn't that much, it's like 60,000. Title III is minimal,
Right.
10,000.
And then we get some access, Medicaid access funds. We Ready to Learn, $495,000.
Is the accountability block grant, is that state or is that federal?
At state.
Is that state?
Any further discussion? All in favor of applying for the grants, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the
Thank you,
Board of...
Mr. Diesinger. Now we go to curriculum.
Yeah, here we go. Moving right along. I move that the Board of School Directors approve the purchase of the following textbooks for the 2015-2016 school year. Literature Grade 9, copyright 2012, Holt McDougall, and Literature Grade 10, copyright 2012, also Holt McDougall. Second.
Motion, second discussion.
One generic question as far as book purchases with the advent of everyone eventually going to have a Chromebook, are we going to be in a better position to possibly have the books online once we have everyone at least at the high school level?
I'll let Todd answer that. We kind of went through that in the curriculum meeting.
Some books lend themselves very well to a one-to-one rollout. The books that we're approving here, the 9th and 10th grade literature books, they have PDF versions that are available, 2012 copyright. We do have a 6-year online lease with them. So there is an online that they can access the book from home, which is nice because if you looked at those books over there, it's about 30 pounds.
But you have to purchase the physical book before you get the online access.
Eventually those physical books are going to be more.
There's not going to be trees left.
You know what? Alf Linden said that in the 1926 campaign.
I know, sir.
Well, one of the things that we did look at was the cost of just the online purchase. We just got class sets, and I think it's a $23 per person difference.
I just want to say, Did we make a decision? I thought there was going to be some conversation about whether or not we were going to move in that direction.
Well, we think that we can, because I think the
I'm talking
question.
about with this plan.
Right, I think the question that I understood it was, at the curriculum meeting, was if it's available, can we get class sets, if we can get a cost savings? And did the board get a copy of the results from that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it does say that there's a, what is it, a $23 per student savings if we did that. So I would recommend that we did go ahead with that, just get class sets. And
You'll also extend the life, you will obviously extend the life of the textbook, if in fact it doesn't
And the
truck
kid.
around and it shoves it in the locker.
the child's back, too.
Yeah, exactly.
We talked about the licensing,
Yes.
but number 4 here on the sheet raises another issue for me. It says the CD that comes with the textbook. Sometimes that's a packaged, you only get the CD if you buy the textbook.
Well, the Chromebooks don't have a CD player
Right,
anyway,
right.
so
That's why they're
You
giving
have to get an external.
they're going to give us a whole bunch of those. It's not, the teacher would be able to print the worksheets. That really is the biggest value for having those
Oh, okay.
CDs.
I didn't want students caught
Beg
without
pardon?
the CDs because they didn't have the
Oh, yeah.
personal
It
textbook.
it would not be an issue.
All right, thanks.
Any further discussion? All approve of purchasing the 2 literature books, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries with 1 vote.
And we're reporting at this meeting that the following proposed text for purchase for the 2015-2016 school term will be available for review for 30 days in the administration building in this room. It's chemistry grade 11. It's a copyright 2015 and the publisher is Pearson. And the practice of statistics, copyright 2014, W.H. Freeman and Company, VFW, New York, grades 11 and 12.
Thank you, Mr. Deezer.
Oh, how is the statistics book now that we're using?
I think this is for the AP statistics class that we're offering each year. It's a new book because of that. I have no idea if it's even the same curriculum.
Further discussion? Thank you, Mr. Deezer. Technology.
I have no.
BCIU. The IU is really quite moving along on getting new labor contracts. And we talked about other things periodically. Athletic Committee.
Couple things we will be, Jim, sorry, we're going to meet earlier that night. We're going to meet Wednesday, the 6th at 5 o'clock at the high school athletic field. We're going to have the vendors with the scoreboard. Again, to one of the things we've talked about is trying to raise additional revenue through advertising. You've seen what we've already done just in a banner program. There's electronic advertising that we can get on that scoreboard that probably can pay for it fairly quickly, and we have a company in Lancaster that does, this is what they do. They work your community for marketing and advertising naming rights that we have been in discussions with, that once we have the information on the scoreboard, we would be able to bring them in and discuss it in detail. But it really is an opportunity to, one, upgrade the facility and also to raise some additional revenue. So we will have the folks come out to show us the scoreboard and information as far as where it would be if we could do it. So we will have that meeting Wednesday at 5, which will lead into Jim's meeting at 6:30 that evening, so we can take a look at the track as well. I think it makes sense to do it at the same time. So that, and then as far as the results, next month we'll have all the end of the year results, but just some highlights. Baseball's 5-0 in the division and 6-3 overall. Softball's 3-2 in the division and 6-4 overall. Boys tennis is 6-1 in the division and 7-2 overall. Singles and double tournaments this weekend at Governor Mifflin. Did you play today?
I think they did.
Yeah, I know Jonah was in the semifinals of the Light 1. I know a bunch of our kids, but I'll have all that information. The team tournament starts Saturday. We host Fleetwood in the first round. We get to play Wyomissing on Monday. Lucky us. We did qualify for the District 3 boys tennis tournament, which is excellent. The boys volleyball team is at 7-1 in the division, 9-3 overall. And girls lacrosse is 6-0 in the division and 85 overall. So all the kids are doing well.
Thank
That's
you,
it.
sir.
Thank you.
Township liaison. Township has offered to provide a briefing on the steering committee project that's ongoing. Mr. Chapina had the nerve to stick around last night and hear it, and he feels that it would behoove us to hear that. So unless I hear objections, I'm going to schedule them to come in the near future and give us a briefing on what that is all about.
I would suggest we wait until after the zoning session.
What? What did you say, Mr. Dickinson?
Moving on. Mr. Kramer, Public Relations.
Just informationally, due to the student death, 2 activities at the high school scheduled for this week have been moved. The Soda Club Battle of the Bands that was scheduled for this Thursday night to raise funds for Exeter Canine Animal Rescue League has been moved to Thursday, May 21st, and it will also include proceeds going to the Jamie Codas Scholarship Fund. And on Friday night, the UNICEF Club fundraiser was going to be a basketball game between Exeter Senior High Faculty and Daniel Boone Senior High Faculty. That is the same evening as the service for Jamie. So that is being moved to Wednesday, May 27th. And now that will be funds going to both UNICEF and the Codas family. So 2 evening activities at the high school have been moved.
Thank you, sir. BCTC.
We'll be meeting tomorrow night. I don't know if any of you, or if you have not heard, we have completed our search and officially approved the replacement for Dr. Lees as the executive director. We chose an inside candidate. It's Dr. Jim Kraft, who is currently serving as the principal at the West Campus. Jim has some really good experience. He's spent probably a dozen years as an executive director in York City, and that's a comprehensive high school. So he brings a lot of good things to the table, I think, and we look for real good things to happen there.
Thank you, sir. Facilities.
We had a very good meeting this month at Wadden Creek. We were able to tour the repairs and improvements that have occurred due to what was left behind by the contractor who went out of business, and we've been challenging currently for funding, but repairs are going excellently on that. During the time we were there, Mrs. Cook was gracious enough to take us for a tour through the building and throughout the facilities. We were able to examine the sport equipment that was given to us, was awarded to us a number of years ago. We finally got to see it set up and saw the impact that's having on students in a positive way. We're also able to discuss briefly the benefit of using the solar power for the building. Is yielding roughly 12% of our energy every year and has a 9-year period to pay back, but it's going to have a 25-year life, so we're feeling very positive about that. And then we had a discussion regarding the bus facility, and a number of individuals were able to participate. Our next meeting, as mentioned earlier, will be on Wednesday, May 6th, 6:30. We'll be meeting at the track. From there, we're going to tour the sports facilities throughout the senior high school area, and then we'll go inside the building and see where we're going. With goal of ending by 8:30.
Audit and payment requests. Ms. Peasy.
I called Chris Hearn, he's our auditor, and I talked to him about, what I should be doing as the chairman of the audit committee. And he suggested, that just, keep an eye on things. And he said that probably when they do their audit, that there are 2 gentlemen, I guess one is a CPA and one is another gentleman from the community is on the audit committee, and Ann has contacted them, and that maybe before we present to the full board, the audit committee, he would discuss with us, and we could discuss with him his audit. So I figured we we worked on that. Now, the payment request, as you can see, the attachment is on, what is it? What's the number here? 19. We need to pay our bills, and as you can see, we had $1,061,682.28 taken out of the general fund. We had $11,817 from the capital projects fund, and from the Owanton Creek Elementary School fund, we had $25,248.35, much of which had to do with lawyers' fees. So I would hope that the lawyers get on with the, with procedures so that we can maybe recoup our money from these people that are owing us all this money from the Owanton Creek project. Did you have any idea, Mr. Mosley, or can you tell the board where we are in the process?
They're still at the point of going through discovery. The other side is resisting discovery of certain information. We're trying to get depositions of experts at this stage. So it's not going as fast as everyone hoped it would, but with the demand out there, we will at least be entitled to moving forward with legal interest.
So do you have any idea when we would get into the courts? Like
well, we're in the courts, but as far as actually having
before someone.
I see that as late fall is the earliest I can see it. I mean, it's just the way things are going. I can't see it being much earlier than that.
Hopefully we won't run out of money.
Was there a motion anywhere in that?
I moved that we pay our bills.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I have a motion, a second, discussion.
I think we've had that.
All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bills are paid.
That's a new one.
I believe that I said what I wanted to say for the most part when I spoke earlier about the loss of our student, and other people, Mr. Japina commented about the staff and everyone coming together and the student support for their fellow student and the staff and so forth. And it goes even further than that. I see at my level the support of my colleagues across the county, the support of the BCIU. We have sent a lot of our teachers and counselors, other staff members for training to handle crises like this. And we have sent our personnel to other districts, and now other districts have sent their personnel to us, not just in this case, but other times before. And for that I'm grateful. I had lots of emails and texts over the weekend offering help, offering sympathy from my colleagues across the county. And I really feel good about being a part of such a great group of people. And everyone supports each other, and in times of need, we all come together within our district, but also in the greater area. So my thanks go out to all of my colleagues. Likewise, Mr. Payne has told me that he's heard from many other principals in the county offering, what can we do to help? Do you need more people? I can send over a couple of people tomorrow, let us know, that type of thing. And really, really eternally grateful, even, if we've had so many people rising to the occasion that we haven't taken advantage of every offer of help. We still value and appreciate it, and we look forward to continuing to work with such a great group of people throughout the county who support each other in times of need. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Executive committee report.
We'll be having an executive session after this meeting to review the superintendent's contract.
Yes. I I would remind you all, you have the ethics report due 1 May. So if you've lost a copy that was previously given to you, I'm sure that Anna is glad.
So it's available electronically.
I know.
Yeah.
If you contact Donna, she would gladly send you one, if you don't have it. I know you have already, I don't think it can be done again. Lose track.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. We are adjourned to the executive committee.